and welcome back to another episode of the Practice Players Podcast. This one's been in the works for a while, had some technical difficulties, but thrilled to have my friend Chintoo Deroa on. Chintoo, appreciate you joining us.
No, thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks coming getting this together, but it's good.
It'll be a fun conversation. Chintoo's a very smart, analytical mind, but for the people listening who may not know you, if you just briefly want to explain, where you're from, what you do, any fun details like that.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Columbus area, suburb outside, and I'm entering my third year as a manager with Ohio State. So I was with Dave's last 2 years, and it's sad to see him go, but he's going to do great things at George Mason, and yeah, we'll definitely represent the brand.
Yeah, so thought this would be a fun conversation to have after Summer League now. So I guess incorporating Summer League, whoever wants to start off, who do you guys think is the NBA draft winner solely off draft picks made, not trades made? So rookies coming in, who do you guys think had the best? I'll go last, so everyone wants to start off. And no repeats. All right, Chintoo, start us off.
All right, I'll take it to start. I'll go with the Washington Wizards and their draft. They were moving into a rebuild, so I think they started off well heading into that. Getting Alex Sarr, who struggled a little bit in summer league so far, but I think he'll figure it out. Really talented, and still getting Bub Carrington, who's been a star in summer league so far. So that's looking like a really good pick. And also Keyshawn George, another young, lengthy wing who can do things on both sides of the ball. So I think the Wizards had a good first right step in their rebuild and got 3 really good prospects.
Yeah, I like that pick there, and it's interesting to think that if it ended today, you probably rank them Bub, George, Sarr.
Yeah,
so I feel like that could be a good issue to have because you did so well in the back end. The front end has time to develop.
Yeah, I think Sarr has to figure out the offensive side. He's been good defensively, but he'll be all right. I trust him.
Yeah. He putting up that Dan Allen stat line, 0 for 15, 0 for 7 from 3.
Dan catches at least a straight episode now, and I'm so here for it.
I will say this. Dan would not go for 7.
This episode.
Now, Dan, I'll give you that. I don't think you would go 0 for 7. If we put you in the corner in a summer league game and you're getting 5 of those uncontested catch and shoot threes, you're hitting one.
Yeah, I think I'd hit 1. Yeah.
You should give yourself more credit than that. You should say, no, I think I could hit 3.
All right, but the atmosphere, he's not shooting 60%.
No. Realistically, there's players on the summer league benches that were stars in college. So if they're not in the corner hitting 3, I know I'm not hitting 3. I'll segue to my picks here because I have 2. The first one is the Utah Jazz because of the depth of who they took. They got Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, and Cody Williams. But I think the team that won with, in my opinion, the best player in the draft is the Houston Rockets, getting Reed Shepherd to pair with the young core that they already have with Jalen Green and Cam Whitmore, who's been great in summer league, and they were able to sign N'Faly Dante to a 2-way my guy here from Oregon. And Houston's going to be a team that I think competes in that play-in, that 7 to 10 range if Reed Shepherd can be as good as he was in summer league. But this is a guy who was massively efficient in college, and you look at his build, and he's a 6'2.5", 6'3" white guard, and you're like, oh, and his ceiling's not that high. Well, he has a 40-inch vertical and shoots 52% from 3, so his ceiling's pretty high for me. So I think Reed Shepherd, I'll say it now on the podcast, I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year after what I've seen in summer league. So I'll shift it to somebody.
Take it all. Yeah, I'm going to say my winner is the Timberwolves, and more specifically Rob Dillingham. He hasn't had the most successful summer league, but I feel like the Timberwolves also have some guys that, like Daisha Nix, and then there's another center, I believe, who's they're in their second years there, and they're trying to take majority of the shots. I think Terrence Shannon also gets put in a great spot he hasn't had a lot of minutes. I don't know why. I haven't watched much of the games. I've just been kind of looking at box scores. Um, but I think those two are, Terrence Shannon was arguably the best college basketball player last year, like, regardless of any of the off the court stuff. But getting him at the end of the first round and then getting Rob where he fell through a trade on the Spurs, like those were two quality picks, and I think it sets them up. They were a 3 seed, I believe, last year, and just getting those two guys will only add to their success.
I think
Yeah.
Rob Dillingham for a playoff team, someone who's known as like a microwave scorer who, he's obviously with Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards, he's not going to come in and start right away. But for a playoff team that wants to make a deep run, and the Timberwolves have that talent to do so, a guy who can come off the bench and just get buckets, that every team needs that. So obviously his efficiency will be the question, but if he can come off the bench in a playoff game and get 10, 12 points, quickly, he can be a spark that they need. So yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah, and I mean, my winner, and I hate that I have to do this because if he's listening, he's going to never let us hear the end of it. But I have to go with the Miami Heat. Our guy Corey Felder, Dan's guy Khalil Ware. I mean, looking like a steal. I mean, picked 15. If it goes again, he's probably top 5, rebounding, finishing, blocking shots, showing some little shooting touch. I mean, he might start for them out the gate. I didn't think so. They're talking about, him and Bam 4 or 5 because they can both shoot a little. He might start out the gate. And then who I thought was probably the biggest steal of the draft, Keyshawn Johnson, undrafted. What he's doing in Summer League, he's probably Defense Player of the Year in Summer League. Blocking shots, stealing, staying in front of dudes. He's looked impressive. So the fact that the Heat walked away with both of those, I mean, Pat Riley does it again, and it makes me sick as a Knicks fan. I guess now we can segue into, and I'm going to start off because it shouldn't even be a question. The best off-season trade. I mean, how can we not go Mikal Bridges to the Nova Knicks? The power of friendship, reunite him with 3 of his college boys, pair him with OG, with Randall, Brunson, Hart, Dante, Mitchell Robinson. Fuck it, I'm on the trade now. Campaign. The vibes in that locker room are going to be outstanding. They're going to have Thibodeau dancing or doing some TikTok challenge by week 2 when he realizes how many assets he has. I don't think anyone can keep up with Wingstop. OG and Mikal going to shut everything down. Brunson's going to get burning doing his thing. Josh going to drink some breast milk before the game and have a quadruple double. Mitchell Robinson, as long as we don't play the Sixers, is going to stay healthy because Embiid can't hurt him. And I think it's a clear path to the finals where we beat the Thunder in 7. So Knicks had the best offseason trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll go, and my trade's more in the fact that both teams benefited. It's the Alex Caruso straight up for Josh Giddey trade. I think when you look at both teams and the trajectories they're going, it benefits both teams. I'll start with Chicago and how they get Josh Giddey. I understand that last year wasn't a great year for Giddey, but Giddey's an on-ball player. He's not an off-the-ball player, and Oklahoma City was trying to make him an off-ball player because of Shea. I mean, you have a top 3 player in the league from last year on obviously on OKC and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And you look at Josh Giddey's game, he needs to have the ball in his hands in order to be efficient and successful. And with the role he was in last year didn't allow him to do that. I think going to Chicago and, obviously getting rid of DeMar DeRozan, they have been having plans to trade Zach LaVine for a while now. It's really just when that's going to happen. And obviously Lonzo Ball's coming back, but it seems to me that a 21-year-old Josh Giddey is somebody who their rebuilding team can rebuild around, with Kobe White on the other wing, who's more of a scorer, who had a great year last year, who I think will have another good year this year. I think it's a great spot for Giddey because, he's, right now he's at that point of his career where he kind of cares more about his, identity. And, Sam Presti asked him to come off the bench and he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather, you trade me. And so I think that works well for him. And then obviously for Oklahoma City, it works out great to get Alex Caruso. You're such a young team and you get a guy who's still only 30, who has at least a 3-4 year window of good years left. And you look at the defensive efficiencies, he's top in the league. Josh Giddey was a negative And then, that's just a huge upgrade for a team in Oklahoma City who needed perimeter shooting in the playoffs. So I think the trade works out significantly well for both teams, but especially Oklahoma City with getting a guy in Caruso and not having to give up a single pick.
I'm gonna go with another trade that I think also benefited both teams, and that was DeJounte Murray, the New Orleans Pelicans. The Hawks had the experiment giving up 3 first-round picks a few years ago to get Trae Young and DeJounte Murray together, but I think, they decide to end it, and I agree with it. Got to move on at some point, and they get a good return for it. They get Dyson Daniels, young player who was injured last year but has a lot of upside and potential, good defense there. They get, former Buckeye EJ Liddell, who's been balling out in summer league. So maybe there's some things there. They get, a couple first-round picks back. So I think for them it was good, and also for the Pelicans, who struggled last year to kind of have that guy who could close the late games out and put the ball in his hands to get a bucket late game. I think DeJounte Murray can be that guy. If Brandon Ingram is still here when the season starts, him, Brandon Ingram, Zion, that's Herb Jones, that's a good core right there for the Pelicans to build off of.
Yeah, as much as it frustrates me to say, the trade that really jumps out to me on paper is the Knicks trade, and I know Dave has already gone through it. I'll go through it kind of as a neutral. You know what I mean? The Nets. What did they get? Mistake me if I'm wrong. 5 first-round picks.
A 4 and a swap.
Okay, so 4 and a swap for a rebuilding team who just re-signed Claxton. They get rid of a really good player. Don't get me wrong, but when you go into a rebuild, those are the kind of deals that you want to make. So they kind of start rebuilding for the future, and the Knicks get McCall, get to keep OG, and only losing out on Hartenstein is really solid. They have 6 or 7 players that any team would want on the floor in any playoffs run. And it's really scary to see. I mean, I think it really is. The Knicks and the Celtics have the best roster in the East. I don't think any other high-end team in the East got that much better. The Magic will only get better. The Celtics, I mean, didn't really do much. Obviously, they don't have to. They just won 4-1 in the finals. But it doesn't really. There's not really another team that jumps out like, oh wow, they made a huge jump. That this Knicks team got a lot better.
Yeah, Dan, don't make that face. Dan, playoff P hasn't been a thing since he was on the Pacers.
I was going to say, I understand that Paul George hasn't been, what he's supposed to be in the playoffs, but that's still a move that has to jump out. Getting playoff P in Philly, you can't deny the fact that now they have 3 all-star caliber players, and they're going to be.
It's going to be Tyrese Maxey with Kelly Oubre as his second option come April. And I'm a Maxey stan. I love Maxey's game, but he's going to 1v. What's he going to do? 1v5 the Bucks in the first round. What's he going to do when they're playing the Pacers in the first round?
Well, wait.
He's playing the Pacers in the first round. He's running around, having to guard the entire fast break offense.
I mean, we did see it this round.
I never sat here and said that it was going to happen. I just said you have to at least acknowledge it.
Yeah,
I think Chintoo would agree with me. You have to at least acknowledge the fact that they formed that big 3. You can't just say,
you can't deny talent.
Yeah,
they're all great. They're all great players. I can't deny it. How is it going to gel?
Mm-hmm.
That playoff roster about to be Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCabe, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, and whoever the backup 5 is, Adembona.
Guaranteeing the fact that Paul George and Embiid are both going to be hurt.
Yeah, have you seen Embiid in the Olympics?
Embiid looks bad right now.
He does look bad. That's because we're not playing in the NBA.
No disrespect, he plays hard and he's better in the Olympics, but he couldn't do anything against Wenyen Gabriel yesterday. Wenyen Gabriel and JT Thor were giving him the work.
Oh, look, I'm not an Embiid guy either. I think Jokic has always been better. I just had to at least say you guys needed to acknowledge it because it's still a big.
I'd be more scared of Cleveland, Milwaukee.
Cleveland.
Would you be more scared of the Magic right now?
Hell no.
Not yet.
Hell no.
I
Paulo's
think the
nice.
Magic are going to be really good.
Magic got
Yeah,
some
they're gonna be the hardest out in the first round.
I mean, Cleveland beat Orlando in 7. That's it. Orlando
And
took them
they didn't lose anybody.
and they
Jared
added
Allen was
somebody who
Magic got
I'm actually
better.
going to mention later. And they added somebody who I'm going to mention later, who I think is going to
Yeah.
help them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
they'll be the
actually
toughest out of the first round.
I'll segue into mine then because we're on the topic of Orlando, of who the best free agency move was, and mine is actually Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to Orlando. I know he's pretty much like a glorified role player in the sense of he's not. I don't think he'll ever be a guy who averages 20 points per game or more. But this was more a huge loss for Denver than I think people realize. KCP was in that starting rotation, NBA champion, actually 2-time NBA champion now, if I'm not mistaken. And Orlando needed a veteran wing player, right? Because their team is so young. Franz, Paulo, Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz, Mo Wagner. Like this team's really, really young. They needed at least one veteran on this team. And KCP, you get him for 3 years, 66, and he's somebody who brings, he's going to be a starter on day one. He's great 3-point shooter, can guard another team's best player. I'm not saying that he's going to be a superstar or anything, but Orlando already made the playoffs last year, and so he's able to upgrade to that team, and so I think KCP was a great add for Orlando.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Chintoo. My bad.
No, I was going to add something to Dan's point that the Magic really struggled to shoot the 3 ball last year, and they get a guy who shot close to 40%. Maybe he was at I don't know if he was at 40%, but if you surround Paulo and Franz with as many 3-point shooters as you can, and that team, like Dan said, made the playoffs and went with the Cavs in 7 games. So I like the Magic. I like that choice, Dan.
I mean, the only reason that I say that they got a lot better with that pick is the last few NBA champions that we've seen. Obviously, they're going to have their stars, right? But their role players play the best. The role players are what is important to a franchise winning a title. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Drew Holiday and Derek White are role players, but if
They're
Tatum
playing in the
and
Olympics.
I get it, dude. I get it. And I think a part of that is because Drew Holiday's always had success in the Olympics, but those are the guys, when you look at the Celtics, you're like, oh, Tatum and Brown. Those are the two guys. But then you look deep in, you're like, holy shit, Derek White and Drew Holiday can guard anyone on the floor at any given time and go for 30, at any given time. So I guess that's a bad example, but that's just that's the Monstars. That's a team that doesn't. But then you go back to the 2022 Nuggets. That's a great example. KCP and Aaron Gordon were two of the best role players the entire playoffs for any team. And so I think that's an important thing to, and kind of segue into my next point. As much as it pains me to say it, Isaiah Hartenstein to the Thunder, and Alex Caruso as well. I know we're on offseason moves, so I'll just stick to Hartenstein. What he was able to do for the Knicks, and actually had Hartenstein on my fantasy roster last year, so I was very attentive to what he was doing, and he would shoot maybe 4 shots a game. He'd make 3 of them, and he'd give you 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 3 assists. What more do you need from a player who doesn't demand the ball, sets screens, rebounds hard as hell, especially for a team that, in my opinion, didn't have a true center last year? I know Chet is a dog, right? But I think he needs to play more of that 4-man role. And Hartenstein slotting right in for a good deal for both parties, him and the Thunder. It certainly gives them a lot to work with this upcoming year, and they are going to for sure control their own fate.
There's a few I wanted to go with. Shout out the Pistons. I think they might actually get to 35 wins this year. So I mean that's a moral victory, I guess. But I think the move, it might not necessarily pay dividends this year, but the Spurs picking up Chris Paul and what he's going to unlock for all those young players more mentally than anything, help them see the game. And Wembanyama, who's already 7'4" and can bring up the ball, learning from a guy like Chris Paul. I think, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you see San Antonio make a push to the finals. When Wembanyama gets on, he's shouting out his people. And I think Chris Paul is definitely going to be in that speech for, helping him sort of unlock his game at such a young age. So I'd probably go with that. And who was they got another vet who I thought, was it Derek Jones Jr.? Did he go there?
No, he went to the Clippers.
Who was sitting courtside? It was Chris Paul, it was Popovich, and it was someone else. You know that video? I'm blanking on who it was. They got another. I need to Google it real quick. But they added Chris Paul, and they added another vet who I just think will help unlock. Oh, it's Harrison Barnes.
Yep, you're right.
So, getting Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul, two proven vets, I think, helps that team. Do they make the play in this year? Potentially. But I just think long term, that sort of mental side of the game, learning from someone like that, sort of like, Rondo on that 2020 Lakers. I think just down the line, that's going to prove a lot more dividends and worth every penny that they paid Chris Paul. And talking about playing and everything for next year, some early, bold NBA predictions. If anyone has, it can be, a player, MVP, a team that surprises, a trade that happens. If anyone got anything juicy.
I'll go first. I think the Bulls blow up their roster. I think they get rid of Levine and they get rid of DeRozan both during the year. And they'll get a hefty return. Like, it'll be picks, it'll be good role players. But I think they completely blow up the roster. I think they've been trying to, but I just don't think they've gotten what they've wanted yet. And teams get more desperate during the year. I could see the Lakers trying their best to get DeMar during the year if they're like that 9 seed or something like that, and they need to make a move. But I think that's my bold prediction. I'm not even sure if it's that bold, but I think the Bulls just blow up their roster.
I think for me, a bold NBA prediction, given that we assume the Bulls might blow up their roster, is Matas Buzelis for Rookie of the Year. I think that is definitely bold. Given that we talk about Reed Shepherd and Alex Sarr, maybe Richase, the top 3 picks. But if there's potential for Matas to play a lot of minutes, towards the end of the season, and even at the start of the season if DeMar and Levine get traded. So I think there's Matas is definitely bold, but there's some path for him to be Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I have
my
two.
Pick,
You got it. No, because I got two.
Well, my pick might be similar to yours, Dave, because we were actually talking about the Spurs earlier. It's about the Spurs. I don't know if that was one of yours, but I completely agree with the Chris Paul effect. I saw it firsthand in Oklahoma City in 2020, where Chris Paul took a team who, going in the season, ESPN had projected with a 0.5% chance to make the playoffs, and our team that year won 48 games and got the 5th seed and made the playoffs, all because of Chris Paul and the effect he had on guys like Shea and Danilo Gallinari and everyone that was there, Steven Adams, everyone that was there that year. And Lou Dort made everyone better around him. I think something very similar is going to happen in San Antonio, specifically with Wemby. I think Wemby is going to be not only an all-star this year, but even an all-NBA player. I'm willing to go to that step. He'll be a top 15 player in the league this year, whether that's first team, second team, third team, most likely third team. But I think that he'll be an all-NBA player this year, and I think the Spurs will be a top 10 seed when you add Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. And Stephon Castle was a great draft pick, national champion at UConn. They're a team that I think will, even though in a stacked Western Conference, I haven't seen many people stat them out to be a top 10 team. I disagree, and I think Wemby's going to be terrific and lead that team to at least the 10 seed. Is my bold take.
I like it. I have a similar idea, and I have 2 bold takes. I'm going to start with something very similar to yours. I say out in the East, the Pistons make the play-in. I was bashing on them earlier, saying 35 wins, but at the bottom of the East, once you get past that top 7, 8-ish, I think the play-in's wide open, and I think Cade takes the jump. They added Tobias Harris, say what you want. He's going to average 20 plus on that team. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Ron Holland, one of those young guys takes another step. And I think, they can get to, that 10, 9, 8 seed. I'd take them right now probably over the Hawks, over the Wizards, over what's happening in Chicago, over Charlotte, depending on what happens down there. So, that's already 4. That puts them at 11. Like, there's a path for them to get that 10 seed, which I think would be a victory in year 1 of the new era. And then my boldest take, and I hope this ages well, I'm going to say at the trade deadline, Brook Lopez is probably a Knick. Chris Middleton, let's say he's on the Heat. And by this time next year, Giannis Antetokounmpo is wearing a different jersey for the first time in his career. That's my take. I think with how top-heavy the East is, Middleton's getting older, more injury-prone. Dame, still a hell of a player, but last 2 years, more injury-prone. I think they are a first-round exit again. They may not even get a top 4 seed. And I think, Giannis, turning 30, I believe, only 1 title. He's a loyal dude, but I think it's time for both parties to sort of have that conversation. Because for Giannis, right now you could still get the biggest ransom in NBA trade history. He gets a new look. And I think, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, 4 first-round picks, Draymond Green might be a good package for the Bucks to sort of build for the future. And opens up that window for Steph. I could see Giannis being a Warrior. That's my bold take.
Definitely bold. Bold might be an understatement there.
Yeah, extremely bold. Essentially, in this window that the Bucks have to win a championship. So Brook Lopez will be traded this year.
Brook Lopez will be a Knick. Middleton will be, I don't know where, maybe like the Heat or something. But the part, ignore all that. The part about it is this time next year, Giannis will be in a different jersey. And if I had to pick a team, it's going to be blue and yellow. Blue and gold. My bad.
I think that's kind of interesting because I think we've seen a lot of NBA teams, they have the talent in the window to maybe go deep in the playoffs and compete for a title, but then they miss their opportunity to blow it all up and get good return for the players they have to then go into a rebuild. Like I think the Bulls, they've obviously Lonzo's been hurt, but I think they missed their window to blow up the roster they had, even 2 years ago, but even last year, Alex Caruso was there were rumors he was getting 2 first-round picks in return for him at the deadline. DeRozan, same thing. Levine potentially. They waited until the offseason, and Dan mentioned Josh Giddey, great player, potential there. But for 2 first-round picks or Josh Giddey, you could have gotten both of those things from the Thunder. So I think teams are missing their window to blow things up, and the Bucks. I can see. It's definitely bold from Dave, but I can definitely see that there's a chance for them to do that.
Dan, speaking of Giannis trades, I know we had this discussion a year ago and it got very flamboyant. Now that Giddey's gone, Chet Holmgren and Josh Giddey, before you made the Bulls trade, the Bucks call. They say, give us Chet, Josh Giddey for Giannis. Are you doing it now or are you still holding off?
No, I think I want to see this year what Josh Giddey does, but I would probably do that trade. Yeah. When you look at the year Josh Giddey had averaged 17, 8, and 8 as a 19-year-old, that just can't be ignored. And, I didn't think the regression last year was actually going to happen. But I do think if I'm getting Josh Giddey as a primary ball handler, where he's going to do he'll have like a 1999 type season that he'll probably have for Chicago this year. And, Chet's going to probably, I think because, we still have Shea and J-Dub, I think he'll be our third option. I think he'll average still around like 19, 18 to 20, but he's going to be, obviously, defense will be his focus. I would do the trade, even though Chet and Josh are significantly younger. I think now it's different with what I saw Giddey in the playoffs. He did not look good at all. That definitely throws a red flag. I did not think he would look like that. So now, yeah, I would probably do that trade. But a year ago with, what Giddey did at such a young age, I had to consider, the how much younger Chet and Josh were.
All right, present day now, seeing, how Shea and J-Dub are. Bucks GM calls up. You're Sam Presti for this. I'm the Bucks GM. Call you up. I want Chet. I want Lou Dort. I want Cason Wallace. And 2 first-round picks unprotected. You can pick from whatever team, so late 20s. So let's call it, pick 20, pick 21. Pick 20, pick 21, Lou Dort, Cason, Chet for Giannis. Those picks don't mean anything. So it's basically Dort, Cason, and Chet for Giannis right now.
You just got a Dort replacement in Caruso, so think about that as well. Who probably shoots better from 3.
I just think more age. I mean, the fact that Chet's still only 21. But, because I think with our how good we are already in our window, I think our window is pretty big. Like, I genuinely think we have at least a 6 to 8 year window to win a championship. I think if we did all that and traded for Giannis, that window would kind of shrink a little bit. However, I think with that trade, it would make us the best team in the NBA. Maybe not Boston, or maybe Boston, but definitely the best team in the West. So I would Boston.
I was going to say the same thing.
If there was an opportunity to get Giannis right now, I'd do it. If we had Giannis,
I'm pretty sure.
You'd keep Isaiah Joe, you'd keep Aaron Wiggins, like 2 role players that you just signed for good deals. Like,
you'd win 3 of the next 4 titles. You're rolling out Shea, J-Dub, Caruso, Giannis, Hardenstein.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That's just gross.
Yeah.
Shea, J-Dub, and Giannis is just like
you guys were basically a game away from being in the Western Conference Finals. I personally I don't know how you feel about this. I keep it 100 with players. I think Josh Giddey was the reason that you guys lost the entire series. They just treated him like he was a fucking 5th grader. Excuse my language. It was just gross to see, because I felt for you. I wanted you guys to beat Dallas. I'm going to be honest. I wanted to see the excitement in your eyes. And they just let him sit in the corner and shoot threes and go 0 for 3 games. You guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys outscored them the entire series, did you not?
It was tied.
Okay.
6 games. We have the same exact point.
And look, I get it. You guys are still young. You guys you're right. You definitely do have a good chunk of a window. But now, it's getting to the point where it's okay, we have the roster. Why are we not in the finals? Why are we not winning the finals? You know what I mean? It's this year. I think if a semifinals loss this year is a bust. Last year is okay, Shea had an MVP season, but it was the first year. Everybody was kind of coming into their shell. Next year, it's Western Conference Finals or bust. I think the Knicks, same thing. I'm gonna be honest. All the moves that you guys made as well.
It's easy. ECF or bust.
Yeah, I would agree. The Lakers are going to win the whole thing, though. That's just a side.
Well, that actually, I want to jump into this because we can give our final 4. We'll do a quick little rundown. We'll do our final 4 and then NBA championship predictions. And I'm going to start it off. In the West, I have Thunder Lakers. And the Lakers wouldn't have been in there 24 hours ago. But after seeing the mission that LeBron's on, he's not playing around anymore. He's trying to collect his accolades before he owns a team in Vegas. I mean, no disrespect. Royal Ivy, hell of a coach. Luol Deng might be the best president of operations for any Olympic team right now. The fact that they only beat South Sudan by 1, I don't care if it was a tune-up game. I don't care if it was an exhibition. I don't care if it was played on fucking Mars. The fact that your best player had to be 40-year-old LeBron James willing his way. And I know that after that and 1 dunk, Nick was watching it. He hit I was like, yeah, no, he means business. So, I mean, you can roll him out. You can roll out Bronny, Dalton Connect, bring back Quinn Cook, and resurrect Magic Johnson. They're finding a way to the conference finals. I still think the Thunder beat them, but he's getting close. So I have the Thunder coming out the West. In the East, we're giving the people what they want. Knicks, Celtics. And I mean, who would I be if I didn't have Knicks, Thunder, Knicks in 7? So that's my pick. But I mean, LeBron could win MVP this year. I think this is gonna be his last peak season, though. I know he can do it, but I think he goes all out this year, makes the conference finals, then he slowly starts, turning down a little bit. Plays another 2 years after, so 3 years, including this year. Then 2028 rolls around. owns a team, becomes the GM for real. But I mean, LeBron might finish top 3 at MVP voting after seeing what he's doing.
I'll go right after you because I have the same 4. I really do. But I'll go into each team kind of in their own light. I think the Celtics, I mean, if they have the same roster that they roll out next year, it could easily be another championship. Like, just going to be completely honest. I think there's going to be some ego issues. I think Tatum was actually truly pissed that he didn't win Finals MVP. And I think Jaylen Brown is truly pissed that he just won Finals MVP and Derek White got the spot on the USA roster instead of him. So I think that that's going to be an issue. I really do. The Knicks got so much better. And if Jalen Brunson continues to do Jalen Brunson things, I don't see a reason why they're not in the finals. And like I've been high. Like obviously David is like Jalen Brunson's the best player in the NBA. I've been like
I've been saying that for 2 years. Y'all
I
thought I
think
was
he's the top.
crazy.
You like I don't think you were crazy, but like I still think he's like lowest of key. Like might even be that third point guard, like best guard in the NBA. Like
But that still puts him top 10 player. That's not a
yeah,
debate.
no, I'm not saying he's not. I think he's
All
up
right.
there. I think he's
He's
definitely.
top.
I
He's
think
top.
he might
He's
be in
top
like
7. Top 7, 6.
I was gonna put him in that 8 spot, like 7, 8, 9. I don't hate
What's
that.
that face Dan's making? He was 6 in MVP voting, or 5th. He was 5th in MVP and 6th in All NBA. Just made bros over here talking about no, I'd rather J-Dub for next year. I'm not talking in 12 years when J-Dub's still 19 somehow and Brunson turned 70.
Dan's been catching strays the whole time here, man. That's crazy.
He's susceptible for the stray. But then we'll go to the West. Thunder, like I said, obviously got so much better as well. If they can stay healthy, there's no reason why they shouldn't make the finals. And then the Lakers, I mean, look, they didn't get any better, to be honest. Like
They got
they
Bronny and
drafted
Dalton.
it will connect, and honestly, Connect is a steal. Like they could have been a draft winner solely off that pick. Like he averaged, what did he average in the SEC? Like 27 a game. In college is unheard of. Had 37 against Purdue in the Elite Eight. Like the dude is disgusting. The fact that he fell to 17 just because he's 23 years old is beyond me. When most of these 19-year-olds that are drafted are going to take 3 years to reach their peak, and you're going to have to just pay them more? No. So I think the Lakers, are good in that regard. And like Dave said, yesterday's game, LeBron and Anthony Davis were the 2 best players on the floor. Anthony Davis had another double-double. Anthony Davis has had
LeBron, Drew Holiday, AD.
Okay, 2 out of the top 3. AD had another double-double, another 4+ blocks, and then LeBron's giving you 9 for 13, 23, 6 and 6 in an Olympics game where he's getting, 28 minutes. And he's 40. He turns 40 in 4 months. The dude is gross. The dude is the greatest player to ever touch a ball. What are we even talking about here? Greatest player to ever touch a ball. It's not like I don't think
a ball
there's
in general, because Tom Brady touched a ball.
Touched the basketball. We'll go there.
Serena Williams touched the tennis ball, and she.
Do you even know tennis rules? I don't even know if you do know.
I mean, I know there's 15, 30, 40 in love. I know that from Wii Sports.
I think it's 45.
I was gross at that.
I think 15, 30, 45, not 40.
I think it's 40. I actually like somebody.
I think it is 40.
I think it's 40.
It's 40?
How
you only go from 15
sure
to 10?
It's 15, 30, 40. I think we should.
Why you go up by 15 and 10?
I think we should click this part, and because I'm pretty sure I'm right on it that it's 40.
Yeah, this would be a fun clip because I'm saying
actually,
that would make no sense though.
Nick, if you don't mind looking it up right now, I'll go with my.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 45 for the fuck of it.
I'll go with my finals prediction. If Nick could look that up by chance. The final 4 I have in the East, I do also have the Knicks and the Celtics. And then in the West, I'm going a little bit different of an approach. I have the Thunder and the Nuggets. My take this year on the Lakers, because David and Nick both selected the Lakers, I have complete faith in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. However, I have no faith in anybody else. So for that reason, I don't think they make it to the conference finals, but I think LeBron and AD are going to have another good year. But in terms of the teams I did select, I actually think that this is the year, as crazy as it is for me to say coming out of my mouth. I can't believe I'm going to say this. That the New York Knicks actually make the finals. I didn't ever think I'd say this. I really didn't. But I mean, they actually have a national championship like roster with all those Villanova boys. And as much as people want to say chemistry doesn't matter, it very much does. And it's hard for me to say, but yes, I think the New York Knicks are actually going to make it out of the East and make the NBA Finals, which Dave's been manifesting ever since I've been best friends with him, and it's never
Ever
happened.
since I came out the womb.
This is the year that I actually think it happens. And you know what? In the Western Conference, I gotta have faith in my boys too. So I'm going the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the New York Knicks are going to face off in the NBA Finals. And I'm going to go a little bit
This is
opposite
how
of Dave.
friendships die.
Wait,
This is how friendships die.
Who's got home court for the series?
I think.
I mean, probably the Thunder, because they got tryhards in the regular season.
I actually think that we're both going to be 2 seeds. That's my thought. I think the Nuggets are going to get the
one. That doesn't answer my question. Who's got home
Probably
court?
the Thunder. Probably the Thunder.
I think we'll have home court and we'll win it at Paycom Center in Game 7, and I'll be there for that game. And I'll spend my entire.
That's the thing with me though is like now you're playing.
Dave and I will spend our entire savings to go to that game together in Game 7. And
that's how friendships thrive.
Whatever happens there happens there. But Nick, did you get a ruling on that tennis question?
Yeah, Dan, you were absolutely correct. They actually changed the rule a while back. I don't understand why, like what it meant. It was something to do with the clock, but it was 15, 30, 45. They had changed it.
So I feel like this is a healthy scratch.
Yeah. Dave, you had a good point, and then Dan has just been keeping up with the recent times.
Yeah, I have not.
I'm gonna go with my final predictions. I'm gonna keep the East about the same. I think Celtics and Knicks, and I'm gonna say the Celtics come out. I know that pains Dave to hear that, but they re-signed. I mean, everybody from that roster, and I think as dominant as they were last year, you can't ignore that. And I think they it's not as easy as it was to get out the East as last year, but they'll get out the East. And then I think the Thunder and the Timberwolves are going to be in the West. I think the Nuggets lost KCP, good role player. I think the Mavericks, I think they leaned on Luka a lot in that series, and I don't know if I think he can do that much again. But they lost Derrick Jones Jr., great role player. So I think the Timberwolves and the Thunder. I got the Thunder coming out of that, and then I think the Celtics repeat. I think just the amount of talent they had kept everyone, didn't lose anyone at all. And just that amount of talent can't be ignored. And I think they go back to back.
I like it. We'll have to clip these up. Then we'll get on his grind. Appreciate you if you're listening, Ben. But I know Nick got to get out of here. So last thing, I want to stir the pot a little bit to wrap up. I don't think there's a date yet, but I know the Ducks go into Columbus probably December, January, February, one of those months for Big Ten regular season. Definitely going to be a game before the game that night because I know neither team will be ducking the smoke, and I will be tuned in on a private Twitter live stream personally for myself. Who's winning that game? Between Chintoo's Buckeyes and Daniel Allen's Ducks. Manager game. Most important. I don't care about the real game.
No, not the real game. Manager game.
No. Yeah, this
what
is
are we
the real
talking
game.
about?
Because Dan can shoot it, but Chintoo got to fucking...
I think it'll completely depend on what managers get on that charter and get to Columbus.
Nah, but if you have 5 Ducks, you have 5 Ducks. I don't care.
Because most likely we will be running a 4v5 because you won't have enough
bring
players.
someone. Bring a walk-on.
Coach support
But-
staff. Just get to 5.
Yeah. I hope we can make that happen. Obviously, if we can make it happen, then I think that I know that they'll be deeper because all their guys will be there, and we'll have 5 with probably our strength guy huffing and puffing after the first 8 minutes. Or in our our trainer if he plays. We have some pretty out of shape staff members, but I think just purely on a basketball level, we'll have a chance. We got some skill, and we have to play our GAs who were both played overseas, and we have to play our GAs. We'll see how the cookie crumbles.
I think the Buckeye managers lost a lot of talent in our most recent graduating class. But, we still got Nick Moore and Eric Oberholzer, dead-eye shooter and mid-range master, and that can't be ignored. So, I think Nick Moore and Eric Oberholzer push the Buckeyes over the top.
I like it, Will. We'll have to tune in for that Twitter live stream, but I thought this was very fun. A lot of good content in here. Chintoo, appreciate you hopping on.
I appreciate you guys bringing me on. A lot of fun to talk hoops.
Sure.
This was great. And as always,
PPP out. Peace.